Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christine Dixon of The Ordinary Sacred, and I want to start out by giving a shout out to my brilliant husband, Brian. I asked him to help me come up with a title for this video, and I explained that it's basically about how I discovered that bringing non-judgmental observation, awareness around a bad habit would allow us to effortlessly and naturally transform it. And that another term for non-judgmental observation is curiosity. And he immediately said, how about curiosity cured the cat? And I just thought it was so clever and wonderful. So that's the title of this video. And it was really in the weekly IFS community that I facilitate every Tuesday a few weeks back, where we were having this discussion about these bad habits that we have, whether it's biting our nails, binging Netflix, binging alcohol, raging at other people, whatever it is, this process of how to naturally resolve it rather than using our managers to just kind of force it down. So I actually discovered this process. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you how I discovered the process, how I've applied it to several things in my own life, and then hopefully you can take it and try it as an experiment for yourself. So the way I discovered it was, many of you know that I was an educational therapist for over 20 years. And I basically worked with students whose strengths were not celebrated in the confines of the school system. But a strength that many people who are diagnosed with ADD and ADHD have is that they have this incapacity to focus on things that they're not interested in, that are not in alignment with their truth, right? I was a quote unquote good student, which meant that I was able to completely abdicate my inner compass, really, and my needs and my emotions and my desires, and focus on what someone else decided I should focus on. And so while this gets people with ADD scolded and shamed in the school system, it's actually a beautiful, beautiful gift, because as they get older, they're able to pursue what's actually life-giving to them, which is really what they're meant to do to serve the world. Check out my video last week on my education rant for more about that. But as I was working with people who really genuinely struggled to focus, in class, and I just felt so curious about their attention and when they would have it and when they wouldn't, and what the stimulus was when it would go, and that kind of thing. So I felt non-judgmental curiosity toward it. And so then I would try to help them feel that. And what I found was that the progression of their awareness would go from after the fact to during the fact to before the fact. Now, the key here is that the awareness is non-judgmental. So that's not to negate that some of these things that are bad habits may have a negative impact on us or on other people. We bite our nails, we don't have any nails. There might be a negative impact there. We binge anything, there's consequence there. So I'm not negating that. But the manager parts of us that try to scold it and shame it and push it down, they mean well, but it's just not effective, because they're not actually dealing with the root. And in order to get to the root of the behavior, to understand that every part of us that uses a bad habit is doing so for a reason, and they can't stop doing that until their reason is no longer there. Their reason is taken care of. So when we bring this non-judgmental curiosity to it, we begin to see the puzzle pieces more clearly, and we go, that's why you do that. That's when you do that. I see. You're pointing me to really valuable information about something else that needs help, right? So that's why this is effective. That's spoiler alert, that's why it's effective. But I encourage you to try it out. So basically what it looked like with my students was, at first I was their awareness. I would notice them losing focus on something, and I would say, hey, you just lost focus after the fact. No judgment, just an observation. And they would go, oh, yeah, I did. That's true. Right? Again, key is no judgment whatsoever. Just, interesting. And then gradually, as I would kind of point it out after the fact, or they would notice it after the fact, then they would start noticing it during. Because anything that's a quote unquote bad habit, or I don't know, a behavior that other parts of us don't like, essentially, because it has some kind of consequence, is usually subconscious. It's done kind of on an autopilot, right? So bringing the awareness to it is like shining a light. I call it the spotlight of non-judgmental attention on it so that it becomes clearer. It's no longer hidden in the subconscious. And there's a great book that I like by someone named Red Hawk. It's called Self-Observation, but he says, when I see it, I don't have to be it, right? And this is really, in IFS language, unblending, right? So once I'm aware, I have awareness, oh, I just did that. Now I'm not in the trance, the subconscious trance of doing it. Now I'm the one who's observing it, right? Okay, so we would start just observing it after the fact. Oh, that just happened. I totally lost attention while the teacher was talking. Then they would start noticing it. And again, this was just an observation from me. It's kind of like I relate to Dick Schwartz, who says he learned this from his clients, because I was just experimenting and learning from them how to help them, right? But so I watched as the progression of awareness would go to the middle of it. They'd be in the middle and they'd start to wander, and they'd go, my mind is directing somewhere else right now. That's so interesting, right? And then it became a choice at that moment. Do I want my focus to go here now or here? And again, there was no judgment about it. It was their choice. But now they're making an aware choice, right? I see my mind wandering over here. This was the thing someone else wanted me to focus on. What do I choose, right? And any choice was fine. But then they would start noticing beforehand, which was basically they would have so much awareness that they would say, this is the type of environment, the type of person, the type of activity, the topic where I have a really hard time focusing on it. Interestingly, I have learned for myself as I get older that I have this gift more and more, but there are certain topics. For example, if someone starts talking about economics, finances, money, my mind just goes, and I'll notice, wow, they just talked for a while and I didn't process anything they said. It's such a fascinating thing. In IFS language, what's happening is there's a part that is taking us out, kind of dissociating or redirecting, distracting, but for a reason, right? Whatever this topic was, this person was, this environment is threatening or they're problematic in some way to that part. And so it's doing this beautiful job of saying, no, we will not be here. We will go somewhere else. So again, getting curious about it, fascinated by it, right? So then the students would start, because there was no judgment, they were curious. They would say, wow, I wonder why this happens with this person or with this topic or in this environment. What is the competing need or what is the reason? And then they could begin advocating for themselves. It might mean that they record the person and listen to it later, or they would let the person know, hey, this topic, I need to be able to visually see it, or I need to be up and moving. That was something that really helped a lot of my students, was to get up and move, draw on the board, water the plants, walk around the room while they were listening. So they could learn things that would support their attention, or they would decide, I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore. It doesn't serve me. I'm willing to have the consequence. And that was a very self-empowered choice. Okay, so fast forward for me, I decided as I was learning this from my clients that I wanted to try it out on a bad habit of mine. So I actually bit my nails, down to the cuticles for the first, I think it was 35, 36 years of my life. And at that time, I decided, okay, I'm just going to notice after the fact. So I would start, I would notice I have no nails. I must have bit them, right? They're gone. But then I would start noticing mid biting. And again, no judgment, no trying to stop it at all. Just, oh, it's interesting. I am biting my nails right now. What's going on around me? And I would just get curious about it. Then I would start noticing beforehand. This is so one of the stimuli for me biting my nails was watching these crime shows like CSI that were really stressful. So it was really stress that caused this nail biting. I started to notice that. And so I had a choice then. Is it worth it to me to watch these shows before bed, right? And I chose not to. So I didn't bite my nails at that time. There were other times where there would be something stressful happening. I would notice I was biting my nails and I would put my hands under my legs. But then it would shift to something else. Like I would start grinding my teeth or clenching my jaw, right? So it's like, okay, these behaviors are showing me that there are parts of me that are stressed out and there's something I need to pay attention to in front of me. And I won't go into huge detail about this now, but eventually what I discovered with my nail biting was that the huge source of stress for me was my first husband. There was so much abuse, neglect, drama, stress, just constant stress. And, eventually my nail biting is what really brought my attention, that connection of, oh, stress, this person is in front of me right now, right? Consistently, this person is in front of me and I'm biting my nails. So then I have a choice about, well, what am I going to do about that? And it's a little more complex than that, but also as simple as that. That compulsion to bite my nails showed me the things in my life that cause stress. And as I gradually had the self-love and self-empowerment to remove those things from my life, I naturally stopped biting my nails. I have not bit my nails at all for the last 12, 13 years. So, and I didn't try not to. It was just through awareness. Another thing that I applied this to in my own life was years ago, I don't know, since I was a child into adulthood, I would eat a bowl of ice cream every night. And it was just so soothing and comforting to me. I looked forward to sitting in front of the TV with that bowl of ice cream, so much pleasure. But on one level, I knew that I wasn't hungry, that it wasn't giving me nutrients for my body. It was more of an emotional thing. And so I wanted to, again, to try out this technique. So what I did was, instead of having judgment, because that's often what happens, right? We have these binging eating parts and we have another critic that comes in and says, you awful thing, you pig, you stop it or else, right? And again, that part means well, it's trying to do something. It has a positive intention, but it's just not effective because it's not dealing with the root. Even if it succeeds in getting us to stop binging for a while, it'll just morph into a different behavior. So what I did was I just started noticing. I started bringing awareness. I knew that I ate ice cream every night, and I would get curious about it. And so then what I started to do was I did an experiment. This is something I talk about in IFS all the time. I proposed an experiment to the part of me who was trying to help soothe me. I understood it was soothing me in some way. And so I said, what if we just wait? I think at first I said 2 minutes. I think that was the amount of time I gave it. What if we waited 2 minutes and just see how I do, what happens if I don't immediately go to ice cream? And then after the 2 minutes, we'll eat the ice cream, no problem. And in those 2 minutes, it was fascinating. There's so much discomfort, sadness, grief, anxiety started coming up. And I started realizing, oh, this is what you're soothing. This is what you're trying to help me keep down. Fascinating. And I had such huge appreciation for the part of me that went to the ice cream to soothe. And so then I said, what if you let me go to the parts of me that are feeling all of this intense emotion just for 2 minutes? And then you have a choice. You can have me eat ice cream or not after that. And as I did that, as I sat lovingly just for 2 minutes, saying, I'm here with you. I feel your sadness. I feel your anxiety. You're not alone. I'm here. Again, there was no fixing of it, just being with it. I see you. You're allowed to come up. You're allowed to be here just for 2 minutes, right? Then I would say early on, 8 to 9 times out of 10, I did not have any desire for the ice cream after that 2 minutes. Every now and then I still would, and I would eat it without any shame whatsoever. But, if I'm eating a bowl of ice cream once every 9 or 10 days. And it was fascinating to me that compulsion that I have to do this went away, because I really felt like I cannot survive without eating a bowl of ice cream at night. Like that's how dependent I was on that. And I understand, that feeling that people have, whether it's whatever your firefighter is, right? Whatever soothes you, whether it's trolling online or, alcohol or drugs or shopping or gambling or whatever it is. Understanding the good intention of that part is really to soothe very distressed parts of us. So proposing that experiment, what if I went to those parts and I could be with them lovingly and just see what happens? Again, if you need to come in, you can. There's no shame in it. I get you. So that was another example. I'm going to give you one more example from me. And that was what I call zombie scrolling, right? It's just so much time would go by and I would be sitting in this trance, scrolling on social media. And there would be a part of me going, you should get up, you should do this, you should do that. No, I don't want to. I don't want to. So I actually call that part of me zombie. And she kind of looks like a goth girl. but it's just that, like, bringing me in that trance. Same exact thing though. This part of me was exactly like the ice cream eating part, where she was trying to help me escape from very distressing emotion. And so I did the same thing with her. Again, I would notice after the fact, wow, I just scrolled for like an hour straight or more. Interesting, right? There's a part that wants to judge it, but I would say, yeah, it's okay. All right, we notice it. And then I would start noticing in the middle of it, I am in a trance right now. I see it. And then I would start to get curious. And in this case, I did something that Martha Beck calls walking back the cat, which is going back to the moment before you felt distressed, essentially. Like everything was going fine in the day, and then usually you notice it as some kind of dis-ease in your body, some kind of even slight agitation, angst in your body and in your mind and emotions, right? Just like ripples in the water. And you walk back the cat to, when did that happen? And what was the stimulus? What happened there? It was fascinating. I would walk back the cat and I would find, ooh, I got this text from my mother-in-law, or I saw this post. And sometimes we're so unaware of when our system gets activated, especially when we're scrolling on social media, because we're putting so much information into our brain so quickly. And we can be scrolling through and see one post that activates us, and then our nervous system responds, but then we keep scrolling, but then we notice, oh, I'm agitated, right? We keep that agitation, and then, but again, these parts that are bad habits, they come in to try to deal with that agitation. And so interestingly, what I saw was there was this feedback loop with zombie, right? Because I'd be scrolling something, some post would activate me, and then I would feel this dysregulation, and zombie would say, keep scrolling, just go to another thing, find something good, right? To try to soothe me. So again, what I did was I used zombie coming in as a really valuable tell. And I actually looked forward to it when I would notice that I was scrolling on my phone. And I go, ooh, there's a part of me that needs attention. There's a part or parts that got activated by something. Let me walk back the cat and get curious. Oh, that happened. Yes, of course you would feel distressed about that. Of course that would lead to anxiety. I'm here with you. It's okay for you to feel that. You're not alone. Tell me about it. Tell me what you're afraid of. Tell me what you need. So in essence, this bad habit, this scrolling, the zombie part, became really, really helpful to me. It pointed back to parts of me that got activated that needed my attention. And so, so I encourage you to use this technique, try it out, experiment with it. That's always what we're doing, to try to show our system if it's effective or not. So think of a bad habit that you have. It could be, something relatively benign to something huge, a perpetrator activity, right? That other parts of your system really judge as awful, right? And I understand those parts. I know they really want you to get the impact is really negative. And we want to validate them, but let them know that we're on the same team as them. We actually want to help this part not have to be so extreme. But the best way to do that is to get non-judgmentally curious and to just notice. I really want to propose this experiment to those parts to just try it out and see if it works. Okay. So you might sometimes have to negotiate with the real critical managers and say, okay, we're just going to try this. I'm noticing that I did this yesterday, right? I had road rage, right? Or I yelled at my kids, or whatever thing that your system says is bad. Let me get curious about that part. Let me just see it, be aware of it. And then you start noticing in the middle of it, I'm about to yell at my kids. That's so interesting. What's going on inside of me? What's been happening to me leading up to this? Why is this a ripe environment for my rage to come out? And get really curious about the parts of you that need your help. And let that rage coming out point you to the parts that need your help. And in that way, it actually becomes supportive to your system. Because those rage parts, they will let you know that you have unmet needs, unhealed trauma, or maybe you have untrue thoughts that you're believing, or parts of you are believing. So everything that comes up in you is actually really valuable information. I guarantee that every bad habit that you have is doing that for a reason. And when you find out what the root is, what the reason is, and you help that, and you heal that, and you love that, and they no longer have a reason to do it, you will find that you will effortlessly, naturally, organically stop doing the behavior. Even if it's a lifelong addiction, it will naturally fall away once its reason for being there is no longer there. And sometimes that might mean getting out of an unsafe environment. It might mean just time traveling back to parts who are stuck in trauma that get activated in your current life. So just some healing things there. It might just be your young inner children knowing that you're going to be with them when they get activated, so that these soothers don't have to come in anymore. Because these soother parts, these addictive bad habit parts, they're usually a little bit older children to kind of preteen or teenagers. And they have had to drive the bus, to run the system, especially when young parts get activated, for a long time. And so now you're the adult self coming in and saying, I see you. I appreciate all your efforts. I'm here now. I can be with these young parts. You can take a break. And they go, oh, thank you. Once they trust that the self can do that. So you got to propose experiments to them. So I encourage you to try this method, I call it backwards non-judgmental awareness, and let these quote unquote bad habits point you to the parts of you that need attention. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. If you try this, let me know how it goes. I would love to hear from you about it.